Now batting for the Yankees, number 2, Derek Jeter.
Derek Jeter has always been about the moment, the big moment. He owns the moment. Does he have one more moment in him? Base hit to right field. Derek Jeter, where fantasy becomes reality. Did you have any doubt?
This moment shouldn't have happened. Derek Jeter's last home game should have been a lot more ordinary, more anticlimactic. Up until that final swing, it had seemed like everything was going against the future Hall of Famer, and that he wouldn't get his final send-off. Rain nearly delayed and almost canceled the game completely. His last roll call was interrupted by a towering home run. On his first opportunity in the field, he was throwing the ball away. In what had looked like his last official at-bat at home, he reached on an error. He was due to be taken out early with a lead in the 9th to receive a thunderous ovation. But after a blown save by one of baseball's best closers, that ovation never happened. And even worse, the Yankees' win was in jeopardy. It had seemed like everything that could go wrong did go wrong in an unintentional effort to sabotage Jeter's last home game, and his final moment in front of his home fans seemed unlikely. But just as he did throughout his career, Jeter navigated around every obstacle in order to deliver one of the most memorable hits of his career. Derek Jeter has always had a flair for the dramatic. He's been the focal point of so many legendary moments that it's tough to believe that he was able to constantly produce under the most extreme pressure. The controversial Jeffrey Mayer home run against Baltimore in the 1996 ALCS. The flip play in Oakland during the 01 ALDS. The Mr. November home run against the Diamondbacks a few weeks later in the 2001 World Series. The dive into the stands against Boston that left his face bruised and bloodied. His iconic jump throw from shortstop that he's pulled off numerous times during his tenure. And him joining the 3,000 hit club by belting a home run into the bleachers in Yankee Stadium. Most players are lucky enough to have one moment that defines their career, but it seemed Jeter had one every couple of years. Prior to the 2014 season, Jeter had announced that he'd be retiring at the end of the year, and quickly, September 25th, 2014 became a very important date. That would be the last time that Derek Jeter would suit up in pinstripes, and the Yankees knew that they had to send off their leader in style. But before the Yankees could properly send him off, other teams around the league congratulated Jeter on a magnificent career when he played in their ballparks for the final time. He'd pick up gifts ranging from cowboy boots to a paddleboard to steamed crabs and everything in between while enjoying his farewell tour. But coming into that final game at Yankee Stadium, the Yankees weren't really playing for much. They'd already been eliminated from the playoffs, but their opponents in the Baltimore Orioles had not. Knowing where the franchise is now, it's tough to imagine a world where the Baltimore Orioles are not only playoff contenders, but one of the favorites. And just 7 short years ago, they were. This was a team that had a prime Adam Jones, Nelson Cruz, Nick Markakis, J.J. Hardy, a young Manny Machado, a still somewhat productive Chris Davis, and future World Series MVP Steve Pearce. This was a team that was solid all the way through. The O's came into September 25th, 2014 chasing the Angels for the best record in the American League, and ultimately home field advantage throughout the postseason. They held the tiebreaker over LA, so every game was important to them. They knew what was going on that day and just how special it was to Yankees fans, and right off the bat they showed that they were trying to make it about them and not about Derek Jeter. As he does during every Yankees home game, Bald Vinny and the rest of the bleacher creatures started the roll call, which in my opinion is one of the coolest traditions in all of sports. Right as they went to call Derek Jeter's name for the final time, Nick Markakis blasted a home run into the second deck in right field to give the Orioles a quick 1-0 lead. Right off the bat, the first major moment in Derek Jeter's last home game was ruined, as he gave a half-assed wave while Markakis was trotting around the bases. Alejandro Diaz followed up Markakis and hit a solo home run of his own, opening the game with back-to-back jacks for the Orioles and quickly sucking the life out of Yankee Stadium. But just as he always has, Jeter found a way to answer for the Yankees, and he answered quickly. After Brett Gardner led off the bottom half of the first with a single, Jeter mashed a ball to deep left center field, missing a home run by a matter of feet and settling into second base with an RBI double. After advancing on a wild pitch, Jeter would score the final run of his career to tie the ball game up at 2 and bring the crowd right back into it. In the top half of the second, Jeter would throw away his first fielding opportunity of the game, notching his final career error, but he would get to redeem himself a hitter later with a rather slick play. But following Jeter's defensive blunder, a whole lot of nothing happened. Yankee starter Hiroki Kuroda would buckle down after surrendering back-to-back jacks to kick off the game, while Orioles starter Kevin Gausman would settle in after his rough first inning before handing the ball off to TJ McFarland. From the second inning until the bottom half of the 7th, only one base runner reached base for each team as the pitching staffs continued to trade zeros and send a tie game into the bottom half of the 7th inning. The bottom half of the 7th started when Stephen Drew, yes, he was a Yankee at one point, struck out, but when Caleb Joseph forgot to do that one thing that catchers are paid to do, Drew reached to lead off the inning. Ichiro, yup, he was a Yankee too, drew a walk, and the Yankees had a rather unconventional rally to kick off the bottom of the 7th. Jose Pirela, playing in just his 4th career game, practiced the now forbidden art of the sacrifice bunt to move the runners into scoring position, but he beat the throw to load the bases for Brett Gardner with no one out. Now, Gardner's another longtime Yankee who's had a flair for the dramatic. He's not nearly as successful or notable as Derek Jeter, but he'll always have a special place in the hearts of Yankees fans. Not wanting to take Jeter's potential moment away from him, Gardner chopped a ball to first base, where Steve Pearce fielded and fired home to keep the game tied in the 7th. Now, this is where everyone thought the drama would happen. Bases loaded, 1 out, tie game, and Derek Jeter coming to the plate with another chance to be a hero. It looked like the perfect story was playing out. Jeter drives in the go-ahead run, he gets taken out in the 9th to a thunderous ovation, and the Yankees win, and it's a great end to his career. Jeter would eventually drive in that go-ahead run, but not in the sense that you're thinking of. He'd nub a weak ground ball to shortstop J.J. Hardy, who would proceed to throw it into right field, allowing a pair of runs to score and Jeter to reach first base successfully. A Brian McCann sac fly, yup, he was a Yankee too, gave the Yankees another insurance run, and after a scoreless 8th inning, they took their 5-2 lead into the top of the 9th inning. It was looking like that E6 would have been the last at-bat Derek Jeter had at Yankee Stadium. All the heroics, all the drama, all the memories would be concluded by a weak ground ball that was thrown into right field, as the plan was to take Jeter out of the game in the top of the 9th inning while the Yankees still held their sizable lead. Taking players out during their final home games isn't something that's new or unheard of. Almost exactly a year prior, Mariano Rivera took the mound for the final time in the top half of the 9th inning in a 4-run game. He'd get his first 2 hitters out, then was pulled from the game by longtime teammates and fellow Core 4 members Andy Pettitte and Jeter. The Yankees wanted to give Rivera that ovation he deserves, hence why they took him out before he could record that final out. With a sizable lead heading into that last inning, the plan was the same for Jeter, as the Yankees had an entire cast ready to greet him. But those pesky Orioles, who were at the receiving end of Jeter's heroics for far too many times over the past 2 decades, weren't done yet. They'd already ruined Jeter's final roll call earlier that night, and they were trying to spoil his final game by mounting an epic comeback. David Robertson, tasked with replacing Rivera in the closing role, was one of the Yankees' better relief pitchers, and had only blown 4 saves to date. The Yankees' 3-run lead looked pretty safe, as in the 61 games Robertson had pitched to that date in 2014, he'd only allowed 3 or more runs in 2 such outings. So, it was safe to say that this game was locked up. That pesky Markakis led off the top of the 9th with a walk. Then Alejandro Diaz got rung up on a rather questionable call. Adam Jones followed that with a piss missile into the second deck in left field. No sweat, right? The Yankees still held a 1-run lead, and after a Nelson Cruz strikeout, manager Joe Girardi was in a tough spot. There were 2 outs, but it was a 1-run game. If Robertson gets out of this, then Jeter doesn't get his moment. But what if they come back and tie it up, or take the lead? Then his career is most certainly done, and I'll be to blame if I take him out. His mind was racing a mile a minute, but Steve Pearce quickly answered for him, blasting a 2-out, game-tying solo home run on the first pitch he saw. Robertson would retire the next hitter, and with Jeter due up 3rd in the bottom half, another script was beginning to write itself. Jose Pirela, appearing in only his 4th career game with only 4 career hits under his belt, laced a single through the left side and was immediately pinch ran for by Antoine Richardson. Richardson was a career minor leaguer who was appearing in his 2nd and eventual final September call-up stint, appearing mainly as a pinch runner over his 22 career Major League games. Honestly, it's not shocking why the 2014 Yankees won only 84 games, as they had a hodgepodge of random guys suiting up for them that year. With Richardson on first, Gardner did that weird bunting thing again that you don't see anymore in the major leagues, advancing the winning run to second base and setting up Jeter perfectly. The stage was set, winning run at second base with Jeter coming up for potentially his final at-bat at Yankee Stadium. Derek Jeter had been waiting for his moment on his night all game. His roll call was interrupted by a home run. He'd made an error on his first attempt in the field. What was supposed to be his final at-bat was an error, and that thunderous ovation he was supposed to receive was nixed after a pair of home runs against a very competent closer. But the chance was there for Jeter now. The script was waiting to be written. Evan Meek would deliver what coincidentally would be the final pitch of his big league career, an 86-mile-an-hour fastball on the outside part of the plate. And finally, in his final at-bat, in his final game in his home stadium, Derek Jeter got his moment.